Yo, 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 Ram fans. Welcome to another live stream Monday Cup of Coffee on Crackers College Hoops. I'm Steve Ivy with co host Marty Lenz. We're your go to guys for all things Colorado State men's basketball. Today's February 2nd, 2026, Groundhog's Day. And and we're going to dive deep into the current state of our team. We're on a 12-10 record right now, sitting at 3-8 in the Mountain West Conference, a record I don't think anybody expected. Not where we want to be. We've showed flashes of brilliance. We've shown a tough week of losses, coming off a tough home loss at Utah State and then two bad road losses. Marty, what you thinking right now, man? How are you?
Well, it is Punxsutawney Phil and Groundhog's Day right now. There's a big shadow that's kind of being cast a little bit over the program, and it's not. Again, it's not for the lack of effort and energy and want to. It's just right now we just can't. There's just like I say, I'm a big believer in chemistry over biology. I mean, I think we have some good biology, but right now we just can't seem to get quite the chemistry going. Uh, I don't know if that's just getting our injured guys back into the flow of things. So I think they're slowly coming back, or just finding the right combination, the right fits on the floor, as you say, to run the offense and do the things that need to be done. I mean, it is frustrating. I never like to lose to Wyoming, but it's the way we lost this game where, our 3-point shooting just went dead cold. And then they're a terrible 3-pointing shooting. They were unconscious in the gym. And that's just very, even if we had them faced up and we're playing pretty solid defense, we're on our guys. I mean, there's a couple times we let some things slip, but it's just, they could not miss all night, and we couldn't make. And that essentially was a lot of the difference in the game.
Yeah. So just to let everybody know, we're going to talk about, this is, we're going to highlight the real issues. Marty's already hit some of the things that happened in the game on Saturday, but we're going to talk about some of the things we've seen that we think might require some bold changes to shake things up. And we want to keep it upbeat and fun with the belief that, we love this team. We believe they have the ability to really be a lot better than they've played. And just to let people know, hey, drop your thoughts. We want this to be interactive too. We want people to share comments. I have a poll running on YouTube, and where you can choose. You can vote on what changes you might like to see. Whether you'd like to see different lineup and rotation, faster tempo, better perimeter defensive pressure, or other. But hey, feel free to vote in the poll, and we'll talk more about that at the end. We'll see what people think. But Marty mentioned the poor shooting that took place against Wyoming, and we had started seeing it come back with the return of Kyle Jorgensen into the lineup, playing alongside Rashad Mbemba, and the shooting had come back, and then it fell off at San Diego State on the road, and it fell off at Wyoming for sure. But there's other things going on right now, with like I said, the slow tempo, and then some of the things defensively. So let's kind of start breaking it down. Let's talk the positives. Our offense. We've seen our ability to light things up. Overall, we're ranked, I think, about 37th nationally in offensive rating. In KenPom, we've got players like Kyle Jorgensen shooting 49% from three, Brandon Recksteiner shooting 42%, both averaging 13, 12 points a game. It's a team that has been known to assist, to pass the ball, to share the ball. We've got good wins over teams like Grand Canyon, obviously CU in the non-con, but Grand Canyon. But what are you seeing? What are you seeing in the offense, Marty, that's keeping us from getting to that to get to that level? Are you seeing anything in particular?
Well, I think the biggest thing, I mean, the shooting aside, teams are going to go hot and cold, and I get that, kind of the, win by the three, die by the three. But the biggest thing I see is protecting the ball, is turnovers. We turn over the ball an awful lot, and and again, I'm not questioning the guy's effort and want to, but there's just a carelessness at sometimes the basketball that I find very beguiling and frustrating. Trying to throw, being a smaller playing, trying to throw over a tree, the lost art of the bounce pass, or just being more crisp and more deliberate with the passing. Because I see a lot of turnovers in games that have hurt us, and I'm sure we probably, as many turnovers we have in a game, we probably give up 10 points on turnovers in a game, and I find that frustrating, because that's about just protecting the ball. Possession, what do they say? Possession's 9/10 of the law. Well, possession's probably 9/10 of a victory. If you hold it and you're good with it and careful with it and not careless, you do well. That's the big thing. I do sometimes see us, it's the basics. The first question I asked Coach Faroknamesh for CSU to have a great season, they have to do blank. And he said rebounding. Now, there's times I think our rebounding has been good, but, I've noticed that we get beat on the boards, a little more on the offensive side of the boards, if my memory is correct, and it is even defensively. But second chance points, those things hurt, because again, I'm a firm believer. I think we have really good players. I mean, I think we have a very deep bench. Now none of these players is a Neat Clifford. And that's no disrespect to them, because I don't even think Neat Clifford was Neat Clifford until year 2 or 3. But I mean, so we don't have that go-to guy who's like, hey man, I got this and I can do it and make the moves. But we have good enough talent here that at the very least, as you say, you look at the wins, we should probably have at least 3 or 4 more wins that I could think of, that we're feeling a little different about ourselves. And as you often sometimes say, Steve, it's not the losing, but it's how you lose games. In certain ways that we've lost games have been frustrating. If we lose, but we're playing our best, it's like, hey man, you just got to give it to the other team. But when you lose games, you're like, we shouldn't be losing, or losing in the way we lose. I find that frustrating too.
The rebounding thing, we are very low ranked nationally. We only get about 32 rebounds a game, and that's not always an indicator, because sometimes there's only a certain number of available rebounds. But even our percentages of we give up a lot of offensive rebounds. We're giving up, I think. I can't remember but we definitely lose. We've been losing the battle on the boards, not in a big way necessarily, but it's enough. And if you're losing the rebounding battle by 2 or 3. That's 2 or 3 extra possessions for the other team, offensive possessions. And if they're scoring at 1 to 1.5 points per possession when they have the ball, being -2 on the rebounding can cost you 3 points, and those are small margins that you can't afford to give up. And then on the turnover side, if you're turning the ball over 4 more times than the other team, not only are you maybe handing them easy points, on pick sixes, but it's also 4 possessions lost. And if you're scoring at a point per possession, which is low, CSU can score a lot higher than that. That's another 4 points you're throwing away. So you combine the offensive rebounding and the turnover margins, and that's probably good for 5 to 10 points a game. And that's enough to take you out of a game. The thing that I want people to think about. And I want people to share comments. I want to share thoughts. I've got whether we have lineups that are good rebounding lineups, or whether it's one of those things where it takes an entire team to rebound. And of course, if it takes an entire team to rebound, then you lead into the second issue that I've highlighted as something to vote on in the poll. We play at a really, really slow tempo, Marty. We play at the slowest tempo in Division I college basketball, the fewest possessions per game.
Well, and then that gets into the whole point. Adam Nigon, who we had on last week, I was listening to the broadcast, and he calls them bunnies. In the last game against Wyoming, how many little bunnies, or any of these games, bunnies we're missing? We're missing opportunities at the rim just to put the basket away. Whether our big guys are getting blocked, I realize it happens. Other teams have athletes too, but it's like, man, throw that ball down, break somebody's arm, throw it in, complete the bunnies. Because to your point, if you're not getting that many opportunities at possessions because of the pace of play, then when you have the chippies, when you have the bunnies, as Adam calls them, you got to make them. And I see way too many of those that we miss. I sometimes see, again, this is about the possession play of it. Again, sometimes they're a little frenetic. It's like they're trying to get the ball down the floor, but they're a little careless with it. Those are just things like that I see that I just wonder if it's more about some of the youth and experience of guys playing together and the comfort of being in the space and playing within yourself in some of those instances. Because again, it's not like we're talking about a team as like, hey, this team has no talent, so we're seeing this. The team really does have good talent. It really does have good coaching. It's just trying to find that cohesiveness, or at least find that talent and cohesiveness that we saw the first 10, 11, 12 games of the season. And I realize the Mountain West Conference is a hard conference. I realize we're missing key players for part of it. And I'm sure part of that all is still the gelling and finding the rotations, bringing Muniz off the bench versus starting him, and other guys like that. I still think we're trying to find that solid rotation that makes the most sense to maximize minutes and people on the floor. But yeah, missing chippies and little opportunities like that, based on everything you said about pace of play, that hurts a lot too.
I have a comment. Aaron's out there joining in with us. Aaron, thanks for joining. Teams are going to play incredibly physically against us until we prove we can beat them, beat that physicality. Think about that. We'll talk. Let's hit that a little later. We can talk about rotations and lineups, because maybe, and I don't know, this is always one of the things that a head coach has to think about. Do we need to play a more physical lineup and focus on just putting out a more physical lineup and not worry about all the shooting we have? Maybe it's putting out better athletes and with more physicality until we prove we can knock people around. I don't know. Just something to think about. We'll talk more about that in a bit. I wanted to talk about the rebounding issue. If you have a rebounding issue, that means in order to win the rebounding battle, you got to send all 5 guys to get a defensive rebound.
Yeah.
And that slows you down. That automatically slows you down, because you can't leak guys out in transition. When I was playing basketball back when
Peach basket, right?
Yeah, peach baskets. The ball didn't stay in the peach basket as easy, so there was a lot of rebounds. But we ran fast breaks when we were young. We started learning. I went to a junior senior high school. We started learning in 7th grade the offense and defenses we were going to run when we were seniors in high school, and we were very, very much a fast breaking team. And as soon as that ball went up, you got a box out and you watched your team get the ball, and then you sprinted to spots to get the ball up the court. You run to the wing, somebody be cutting to the center, and we ran patterns. It's different nowadays. Transition is different nowadays. It's accomplished with the bounce, not with the pass. But you could do that if you had good rebounders, and if you have to go into the paint to get every rebound, and that's one of the things I think that's going on with this team. Until the Wyoming game, the previous 3 games, our leading rebounder was Josh Pasquarelli, was getting about 5 rebounds a game, and the guards, to his credit, he's getting rebounds, but that's also, and some of them are on the offensive side, but when the guards are having to get defensive rebounds, that's going to slow you down. And when you're giving up points and pulling the ball out of your basket, that's going to slow you down. But the other side of it is we walk the ball up the court, and we create fewer possessions by walking the ball up the court and not getting into our sets quickly. Teams pressure us. We need to beat that pressure quicker. We're more willing to walk the ball up the court, and other teams are happy to let us walk the ball up the court. And I'd like to see us figure out a way, all the things they need to work on. And there's a lot of things, but maybe it's just as simple as getting the ball in bounds and getting the ball up the court quicker. I'd like to see that tempo increase. By the way, let's just check in, see how the vote's going. We're at 40% faster tempo, 40% other, 20% different lineup rotation on the poll right now. So go out and vote. Let us know. I'd like to hear about the other, what people are voting for in terms of other. Give me let's get this interactive. Give us some questions. Let us hear it. But let's talk. That's tempo. I want to talk lineups. We saw a tweak to the starting lineup when Kyle Jorgensen and Rashawn Mbemba both got healthy. All of a sudden, we've got them at the 4 and the 5. And then the other thing we saw Jevin Muniz, our leading assist guy, move to the bench, and Jace Butler move into a starting position. Um, what do you think of that? Do you like the lineup? Do you like the rotation?
Well, I mean, I was excited when we were talking about when both those guys were hurt, and we were asking the questions to the coaches. Well, what about seeing the Twin Towers? Will they both be in there? I like that we're trying to do it. I guess it comes down to the keys of what you say. Are they getting the points? Are we getting the boards? Are we getting the possessions? Is that lineup effective in that? Yeah, having Muni's come off the bench when he's your best assist guy. But when he comes in, he's that high value guy. In fact, when he came in against Wyoming, I felt like, ooh, we're starting to get a little flow, a little intensity. That's good. Some of the things he was bringing, driving, penetrating, all those sorts of things. I'm not smart enough or astute enough to know if the lineup works. Because I think all those guys in part and parcel starting or coming off the bench, I think there's enough there to get that. I'm not sure exactly the chemistry because it still comes down to me, you know, what is the best lineup that can possess the ball, the best lineup that can get the rebounds, everything that we've taught, the basics of basketball. And look, I was watching the Nuggets game last night, and it's not exactly corollary because those guys can shoot lights out. But I can't tell you how many times guys are throwing up threes, and there's none of our guys or their guys underneath rebounding. It's everybody's running down the floor, right, for the next play. So you've got all none of the team that's shooting, the offensive team up there, none of their guys are underneath the board shooting, or very rare of them. They're all going down the floor. Joker is maybe the rare exception. He tries to tip it back. But I see that even at the highest levels with how that game has changed with trying to get if you want to say the break or not doing that kind of rebounding on the defensive or offensive side of the board. But like I said, I'm the lineup wise, I'm not astute enough to notice
Uh-oh.
and carry bench. I find very interesting because I think he gives you an immense athletic spark off the bench, which I do like. And I like that his game, he's become even Nigons for age in the last game too. But God, I like that he's at least aggressive taking it to the hoop. I want to see more of that. Him and Memba, I think, are the only two that really, as the big guys, just go in and say, I'm going to impose my will. I like at least seeing that, even if we don't make it all the time.
Yeah, speaking of going to the hoop, that of course is, one of the things this team doesn't do enough of, and people tell me this all the time. They're like, why don't our guards ever go to the basket? And is it because they're just more comfortable shooting threes? They're not comfortable penetrating. They're not comfortable with their ball handling skills. People ask me a variety of things, but we do need to get guards into the paint. The one thing you could count on, and I don't want to. Let's not oversimplify this to, we don't have Isaiah Stevens, and we know that. We knew that going into the season, but that doesn't preclude the importance of other people getting into the paint, getting to the basket, drawing fouls.
Mhm.
They're good free throw shooters. When you got 85% free throw shooters, the easiest way to score is get to the free throw line. You shoot two free throws as an 85% shooter, you're at 1.7 points per possession. You're going to win every game you play scoring 1.7 points per possession. It's as simple as that. And I'd like to see more of that, but we need lineups that can do that. And one of the thoughts, the substitute of Jace Butler into the starting lineup. I think that the reason for that was he's the best perimeter defender, and we were struggling with perimeter defense. And for example, he did a really good job on
Yeah.
on Saturday night against the top scorer for Wyoming. Barely got to 10 points, and that was with free throws at the end. I think he had 6 points when the game was on the line. And a bunch of those came against JoJo McIver. So Jace was basically shutting him down. And so I understand that. But the question is, can we afford not to have Muniz on the court? And because he's the leading assist guy and one of the guys that can get to the basket and get fouled. And so I'm wondering, and this is something to think about. You've got Jorgensen and Mbemba sharing the 4 and the 5, starting at the 4 and the 5. You got Booth and Kiadulis that can come in and play the 4, and Kyle can move to the 5. You got even Nikola Joppa. Does he need some more minutes? But really, it's the guard rotation. And is there a possibility or a thought that maybe either Pasquarelli or Rex Steiner comes off the bench as opposed to Muniz, and that's something I'd love to, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear other people's thoughts on it. Rex Steiner and Pasquarelli, neither of them are what you would consider lead guards or point guards.
Hmm.
They're more shooting guards. Brandon is, I'm not saying he's doesn't have ball handling and just distribution capabilities, but his more natural tendency is to create his own shot than to create shots for others. Pasquarelli's the same thing. He's going to create his own shot. And is it better that one of those guys comes off the bench? I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts and other people in comments.
Well, that's interesting you mentioned Pasquarelli because I mean, of late he's struggled a little bit shooting the three, but he came. You remember the old bad boy Pistons when they had what was it, Vinnie Johnson, the microwave that came off
Yep.
the bench, and he
Yep.
came off. I mean, he was an instant 10 points because he came in because he could shoot lights out. Maybe bringing Pasquarelli off the bench takes a little heat off him, if you will, too. So when he comes off the bench as a 6 or 7 or whatever the rotation is, he can come in and say, "Just play free, man. If you're open, let's get that shot going." Maybe he's the spark, ironically, off the bench, but you don't start him. Take a little pressure off him by starting him because right now he's struggling a little bit to shoot the three. Maybe there's not only a logic to it, but a psychology to it as well that you help the young man too. And could you imagine if, say, you do that and then all of a sudden he starts shooting threes and you're like, that's our microwave. You bring him off the bench to know, hey, man, we're going to get some instant points and, in some decent minutes, we're going to get some great value and points out of him and allow him to get more comfortable to doing that. By the way, I was glad that he was shooting. What do they say? Shoot or shoot, man. And so it's like, hey, man, he's got to shoot. Even though he was struggling, it's like he's still got to shoot because that's what he does. You just got to continue to shoot and shoot and do what you can. I'm with you. I sometimes wish the guards would penetrate more. I do wonder because we're a little smallish on the guard side that they're afraid to go in because they think they're going against the trees. They may get blocked. That's a risk. But you're right. You're going to get rewarded as an offensive guy if you're making the contact and initiating more often than not. Get reward by getting a foul. Unless you're really stumbling over somebody and the guy is really set, but you're going to get rewarded for that. And you're right. As great as we shoot free throws, penetrate, man. Go and try to see if we can create the action and see if we can get to the line and get points that way.
Yeah, the other thing that I've noticed, this is in my 100 years of watching college basketball or any form of basketball, when shooters are struggling from the perimeter, the best way they can start getting hot from the perimeter is by getting easy points from the free throw line. Shoot
Yeah.
free throws, get comfortable making
Yeah.
shots, see the ball go in, all of a sudden they shoot better. Aaron with another comment here. We need our point guard to be a ball handler, facilitator, and respectable at D. Our starting five doesn't have that. Not sure we have someone on the roster with that skill set at a high enough level. I think that's a legitimate point. I don't know if that's entirely true, but that's what we're seeing right now, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we've been spoiled with really elite ball handlers, haven't we? But we hear all the time, and this is what Aaron probably points out too. How many times do we hear about how important guard play is, especially during tournament time? Most teams that advance in the tournaments, and we know we're one of those teams that advance in the tournaments, have really solid, really good guard play. As you to protecting, handling the ball, distributing, scoring timely points. So yeah, I mean, this gets to what you say often. We've been a little spoiled. We've been a little spoiled with some of the people that have come through. And I think we're going to be that way again, because a lot of, I think, what ails us to some degree, it's the portal, it's guys that haven't played together. And I realize now we're 22 games in, it should start melding. I do see signs of that. We did have guys hurt. You've heard me say that before, but it's being able to develop these guys and have guys get comfortable in the roles. But I also wonder too, Steve, if some of these guys haven't been able to because of some degree, the injuries, being asked to do things that maybe they weren't initially going to be able to do or were going to be asked to do because of lineups and stuff. But that's all part of it. That's the maturation and rotation of doing things. I think you can sense from me, it's just I really feel we have some really good players and solid players. It's a bit of a head scratcher why we just can't seem to get at least semi good shooting the three again as great as we were. We're probably unconscious ourselves, but now we've really cooled off. If we can just get back to that balanced level, we're going to win a lot of basketball games. I just know that. And then, like I said, with certain games, like San Diego State's a tough out. But with Wyoming, those guys shoot crappy, and they decided to have an elite shooting night against us. It is a rivalry game, and they what do they average? 29% threes in a game, and this game they were like you said, close to 50. I mean, that's
Yep.
just when we're not making ours and they're making theirs. That's a problem.
Yeah. with the point guard thing, the luxury of a great point guard. I don't know if you noticed. I put something out on social media last night. The starting point guard for the Sacramento Kings last night was Neek Clifford. Now you never thought of him as a point guard, but
Right.
In the NBA game, that's more the prototype of a point
James
guard
Harden. Yeah.
is a big guy who can handle the ball, who can pass the ball,
Hmm.
can create his own shot, but a very, very willing scorer. But the best part was with Russell Westbrook out, Neek Clifford's backup last night and played his career high 19 minutes in the NBA was Isaiah Stevens.
Oh
So
wow.
CSU ran the point last night for the Sacramento Kings. Neek Clifford, Isaiah Stevens. That's who we've had. That's the luxury. We had NBA players the last few years,
Yeah.
and so there's some truth to Aaron's comment that we don't have people like that, and yet I don't know if we're ever going to have people like that. That doesn't mean we can't have people that can do those things. And from my perspective, um, I would really like to see. This is just me. I'd like to see Muniz back in the lineup and taking on the role more of the point guard. The other guys can bring the ball up the floor, but let's get the ball in Jeff's hands. He tends to be a little more creative with it.
Well, and we talk about the physicality, and look, those great CSU teams had great skill guys, but you know what else we had? We had a little bully ball in us too. We weren't afraid to be physical and mix it up. This team, that's I think part of their evolution, is having a guy that's just, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to impose. If I may get 3, 4, 5, I may foul out, but I'm going to just physically go in there and say, man, I'm going to be Brutus, and it's going to take everything to take me down and just physically wear and lean on the guys. Even when CSU had the great skill guys, we weren't afraid to play a little bully ball. And I want to see that part of the development if we can with some of these guys. I think Memba tries his best to be that big guy, but he needs like almost another tag team partner. If that's Jorgensen or just Kadoodlis, any of those guys, Joppa that just come in, man, I'm coming in for 10 minutes and you're going to be bruised and beat up when I'm on that floor, and you just better get used to it because that'll do a lot, as you say. People press us because they don't think we're physical. Well, as soon as you start punching back a little bit, then people are like, oh, we're going to back off a little bit because these guys are going to bring it and they're going to, be as physical back towards us.
Yeah, I hear you on that, and I'm with you 100% on that. The other thing, just we can joke about it all we want. We maybe we've got to the coaches have got to figure out a way to put combinations of players on the floor that can handle a lot of these things we've been talking about. And of course, you can't trade for portal transfers mid-season, right? Yeah. We are what we are until next year, and so you have to focus on development and chemistry over biology, as you said. A lot of people are talking about. Oh, here we go. See a comment. Here we go. From Joey B. New coach, new players, still figuring out who they are. Trust the process. And yes, Marty, the struggle is real. Joey B.
Yeah.
But every team has some newness to it. That's the reality of the portal, and you want things to start coming together basically 2/3 of the way into the season, and there's no time like the present. I want to go to the poll because the poll right now is saying that 50% of the people are saying we need to play at a faster tempo. That's being the overwhelming change to what people would like to see. And I want to talk about the lineup because the lineup might be what's relating to playing at the slower tempo. And I want to hear your thoughts on this. It's just something I'm just throwing this out there. I don't know what the answer is, but with the introduction of Kyle Jorgensen and Rashawn Mbemba playing together and starting together, have we gotten slower?
Maybe. I mean, I think they both run the floor pretty good for big guys, but maybe that is a consideration to say we don't do that because we need a little more speed, a little more agility, if you will, to at least start the game. That's possibly that possibly could be part of it. I just also think too that, well, I mean, the nice thing is we're coming to the much softer part of the schedule. But having said that, we got to take advantage of that. We just can't just assume, well, it's soft. I mean, we saw how we laid an egg against Fresno State, but we have a chance to really try to be a little more cohesive what we're doing. So yeah, maybe, but then but then we talk about the physicality piece, then you risk of going a smaller lineup. That's the thing of that, saying, okay, fine, we'll get up and down the court more, but in our set pieces, now we're definitely going to be running a little smaller lineup. We're going to lose, if you don't start Jorgensen, we're going to lose some of that great shooting, which has kind of been lacking a little bit of late. We just haven't been as hot. Again, if a Pasquarelli or Reckstein or some of the other guys can pick up that pace, then that's not as much of a deficit when Jorgensen's not on the floor. But then if you don't have Memba on the floor, then you absolutely lose, really, at least from what I see of this team, any real inside presence. And then you become a more perimeter team, which, hey, if you're shooting great is great, but when you're struggling is not ideal. Those decisions, I'm a fan, but are above my pay grade because I don't know. I mean, what does the data tell you? What does make sense? Again, is this a chance to experiment with this back half, knowing, we can take a little more risks potentially, but we can't either because we need to get these wins to get ourselves in position for a decent seed for the tournament too.
Joey with another comment. Can't play high tempo with big lineup on the floor. Those big guys will be gassed by the first TV timeout.
Yeah.
There's some truth to that. The other thing though, and this is, this is what I'm gonna share something, and this is what coaches have to go through when they're thinking about things. Is maybe inevitably we have the personnel that needs to play at a slower tempo. And maybe need to figure out a way to optimize a lineup that plays at a slower tempo, not a faster tempo. And maybe that's going to an even bigger lineup. The point being, I'm going to raise something that I noticed yesterday. If you look at Illinois, Illinois is a top 10 team. Illinois put out a lineup yesterday that played a zone defense where the shortest guy was 6'6". They went like 6'6", 6'9", 6'10", 6'10", 7 feet. Maybe we accept the fact we are not a high-tempo team and we go with a big lineup that goes with like a Butler, a Muniz, a Booth, a Mbemba, or Kiadulis, and Jorgensen, and just figure out a way to put big guys in and play nothing but exclusively zone. I don't know. But those are the kind of things that to think about. And we don't have the answers. We're just posing questions. But I know we'd like to see something that either deals with faster tempo or deals with the lineup that maybe is more effective playing at a slower tempo. So,
and then at the same time, you throw wrenches at teams. You throw a different lineup if you go with the big lineup, or conversely, so you go with the faster lineup. And if you can get up early on the faster lineup, then you substitute out and say, now we've got a little bit of cushion. Now we're going to throw our bigs at you. Now we're going to throw a more deliberate offense at you. Those I always love when a team will come out and do. They get whatever they want to start, and then whether it's mass substitutions, but then, like you say, they go from a zone to a man, or they go from, the high-low post offense to something that's just, I love seeing that. Okay, now we've thrown this at you. Now adjust to this. Now that we've gotten the jump we want on you with the possessions and the speed, now we're going to really slow it down and say, we're going to bring our bigs at you. Again, I think the biggest thing, like we said, are some of the basics of basketball that have ailed the team. It's the turnovers, it's the lack of rebounding, and then, frankly, again, you live by the three, you die by the three. We have just been pretty flat and pedestrian with our three-point shooting these last 6-7 games, and I think that has hurt. And then again, when teams get lucky and they get hot, and when they're terrible at threes, it's a bad combination. It's just a very bad combination. And going into the pimple on the prairie, as I call it, that Wyoming is going to be really up for that game. You just got to know that. And I know that. And I think initially it was fine, but it's just a little bit of a slow start, and we get a little behind, and we just can't ever really seem to, to get level to where we can overtake them at some point.
Yeah, it was the game on Saturday was a kind of the season in a nutshell, where you fall behind and never can figure out a way to get back in the game. We never led the game. We got it back within 4, and that was the closest we got. It just wasn't a game where we ever got comfortable doing anything, and all Wyoming got comfortable doing was having odd guys throw up 3-pointers and make
Yeah.
them, and we let them get comfortable. Um,
And I was screaming, get to the line. I was screaming you. I said, get to the line, get to the
yeah,
line, somehow
yeah,
penetrate. Let's get, because we could have won that game, as you say, at the free throw line. It's like, just get to the line and see what we can do.
yeah. So I'd love to, if anybody's out there, anybody got comments of lineups they'd like to see, any thoughts of players they'd like to see more of. One of the thoughts, might be, you know, putting Carey Booth back into the starting lineup along with Jeff, going back with what we have, and whether you go with Kyle or Rashawn, probably Kyle to spread the floor a little bit, but you know, uh, whether you keep both Pasquarelli and Recksteiner there, but there's all kinds of variations, but it should all be on the table right now, given that given where this team needs to go. I mean, it's not panic time, but there should be some thought of given. I would think, and you got a week of practice prior to the next game. I would think there'd be a chance to maybe try some things out in practice and try out combinations and talk about it and think about it. So anyway, um, we can start wrapping up. We've been on for about 35 minutes. It's been a good show. To recap, basically people are looking for let's see, there's a couple comments here. Let's check the comments. This is from Joey. What went south there in the situation between Brad Underwood and Carey Booth? 6'10" kid, not too many of those big kids out there to just let him go. More of the story. Underwood was not, they brought Carey in. They found some things they weren't necessarily sure of in terms of Carey's physicality and in terms of Carey's ability to learn things quickly, and they pushed him to the bench, and they didn't give a damn about him for an entire year, Joey. So Carey's been a project this year. Carey's development was stunted for a full year. Ali is very committed to him. Carey has his ups and downs. He has good games, and then he has periods in a game where he'll make a major mistake and cost the team. And he needs to get more consistent in terms of his play. But he's definitely coming on, and he's been an important cog. We've seen him, the best player we had when we went down and beat Grand Canyon. Carey had a double-double against a very good Grand Canyon team. Their only loss at home in the Mountain West, they have wins over Utah State, Boise State, and San Diego State, but not Colorado State. So, Aaron with a
I'm looking at
comment
the
here.
schedule. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, you know this. I'm looking at the schedule. The next three games are very winnable, very healable games to figure it out. Obviously, San Jose State Saturday, Air Force that Tuesday, get a chance to get back at Wyoming the following Saturday. I mean, these next three games are key, huge games, but also games that are well within the ability to win, well within our ability to figure out whatever combination and elixir that heals us. I mean, this next 3-game slate, this next week and a half, I think will make or break the season for Colorado State in many ways, moving forward. So,
yeah. So anyway, here's a comment from Aaron. Muniz, Pasquarelli, Butler, Jorgensen, Mbemba lineup. That would say Recksteiner coming off the bench to fire up threes, to lead. He can come in for Jeff. He can come in for Josh. He can come in for Jace. He can come in for any one of them, and that's the nice part is he can play, do a variety of different things, and so maybe that's the answer. I don't know. That's a good thought.
I like MacGyver. I like when he comes off the bench. He gives a certain amount of energy too. I mean, even in the last game, I just felt like, okay, there was a little extra heft sometimes when he came in, even if he wasn't making stuff on the stat sheet. I just felt like there was movement, energy, and hustle. So I like seeing him. I know he's a youngin'. But getting him in more too would be great.
Yeah, we'll see. I think there's times when he comes in and he does well, but there's other times when, the offense stagnates when he's in there, because he doesn't offer enough of a penetrating threat.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't and the tricky part about a freshman in this system, there's only one person that hit the ground running, and that was Isaiah. And Isaiah was an extraordinary point guard. Let's just be honest about it. He's all-time leader in the Mountain West in assists and second in scoring. He could have been an even better scorer. He just chose to focus on getting other people the ball in their spots. And so JoJo is not quite ready to really do anything other than, and Kyan Evans struggled he didn't do much his first year.
Yeah.
JoJo's in a similar, and Kyan, it took Kyan a third of his sophomore season before he really got going. And so it's not an easy position to get really, really comfortable in. And I pick on JoJo. I get on JoJo a lot in my post game shows. And because I've seen him play well in practice, and he can play. We just don't see it as much as I'd like to see in games, and maybe we'll start seeing him get more aggressive. So let's see if we got any more interesting comments. Steve, any concern about Rex Steiner's ability to bring the ball up the court consistently? Seems to be a struggle. Gets antsy with the ball. Too many turnovers. I don't know if it's a confidence thing, Joey. He has Brandon can be good handling the ball, but sometimes I think he's just too methodical, and I don't know if that's because he's worried about losing it or because he's just thinks that's the way he needs to get the teams into the sets. But I don't think he's the only one. I think everybody brings the ball up the court a little slowly and a little unsure, and I'd like to see them get into their sets a little quicker. Sometimes, one of the things I'm going to point to Isaiah. Isaiah is like a son to me. I loved Isaiah Stevens. We had 5 years of him. I was a point guard, and obviously I had about 1/100th the ability that young man had. But Isaiah could write a book on playing point guard, and one of the things he always talked about, it wasn't just when you're getting the ball to somebody, you have to not just get the ball to somebody at the right time, but the right place. He was always waiting for them to be in the right place, and he was looking to control the ball until they were in the right place, and then he'd get them the ball. But the other part of Isaiah was, in terms of ball handling, his change of pace. He would talk about this regularly. He said he could watch another point guard and he'd say, oh, they go 100 miles an hour, but they never change their pace and they never change direction. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to change direction on it like that, and you have to be able to change your pace and go slow to fast, fast to slow. And that's what his ball handling was creating, and that's what creates openings to create passing lanes. I don't know if we necessarily have anybody that has that ability, and I don't know if we ever will. But those are the kind of things I'd like to see our point guards try and do a little more of, is change the pace, up the tempo, slow the tempo down, and we don't really get that. So anyway, I think that's a legitimate question from Joey. Anyway, let's end it. Any final parting thoughts, Marty?
No. Just I'm always the eternal hopeful guy when it comes to the Rams. I'm glad they've kind of got a long week of practice. This is good. Again, get more mentally, physically healed. And then again, a very winnable game coming up this weekend, and see if we can start getting the momentum rolling that way. And again, get back to that. Like I said, the first 9, 10, 11 games, Rams looked really solid, in a very cohesive unit. So hopefully maybe this is just some of that growing pains the mid part of the season because of injuries, and again, a very tough Mountain West Conference that they can now realize we're a little bit on the backside now. We have some opportunities to make up some ground.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I'm nothing but positive on this team. I had somebody inside the program ask me if I was optimistic or not about this year's team, and I'm still really optimistic. And I think making these kind of changes we're talking about, getting a little more. A little different energy on the floor in terms of lineups, a little faster tempo. It's time to turn this 12-10 season around and, make a push. You talk to some people, and some people say this is a potential, if they can get it together, this is a dark horse to win the Mountain West Conference tournament. But regardless of the Mountain West, it's starting. Yeah. We're joining the Pac-12 next year. It's time to start building momentum toward next year.
Well, and hey, I still believe that people think we're a tough out too, but we've got to get our own poop in a group before that. But I think you're right. Hey, I don't think Utah State wants to face us a third time. I don't think some of these schools want to go against us again. I think they figure if they can, again, I get that. It's like last year with New Mexico. I'm glad we got to avoid them a little bit in the tournament. But I'm just saying, I think that there are going to be teams, especially if we get back to kind of where we were, that are not going to want to face us because we pose, the old saying, matchups make for fights. And we pose some incredible uncomfortable matchups for some teams, just like some teams make it for us. If they're more physical, that may be a little harder. But no, I mean, and we've been spoiled, my friend. You know better than anybody. This era of CSU basketball, the last 5 to 10 years, you could argue say has been one of the best. And so we're a little spoiled. Our expectations, which I'm glad are high, but we got to realize, as you say, in this new year in the portal and change every year, it's the old days of reloading is not the same in the same way, or not even rebuilding, but it's just adjusting to the new dynamics of how things are now and getting everybody comfortable and in the right space and spot.
Anyway, some final comments. Go Rams. Thanks for the show, fellas. Great content. I agree with the real AD from Aaron. Great start for the work week, fellas. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. All you Ram fans, we have great Ram fans, a great community. Hit the like button, subscribe, hit notifications for the next stream. It's time. Hey, gang, it's time for this team to make some noise, and I'm behind them 100%, and I know Marty is too, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Let's go Rams.
Go Rams.